viewers at home, it's good to have you on this program, Future Ambassadors. I'm Omotola Adokai Ogundele. Today we are looking at drug abuse. It's something that we have looked at before several times, but we know that it's something that we still continue to look at because drug abuse has really eaten deep into the fabric of our country, and so we need to curb it. Today I'm having some wonderful guests in the studio that will be telling us more about drug abuse. I'm having Deputy Superintendent of Narcotic, Madam Bamishaye Lovett. You're welcome to this program. It's good to have you again. And I think you are going to tell us more that we need to know about drug. And I'm also having a youth in the studio today that will be telling us from the youth angle what he understands about drug. I'm having Samuel Raji. You're welcome to this program. Okay, before I go to Madam, let me hear from your own angle. What do you think is drug first? Drug, normal drug. What is drug and what is drug abuse?
Drug is a substance you take to cure a particular problem.
Okay.
While drug abuse is the excess use of the drug being prescribed for you to use to cure a particular problem.
Okay. Sometimes it might not be prescribed, I guess. You might just go behind the counter
Just
to
maybe
just
you
get
feel
it.
like getting it, that you'll be okay with it.
Okay. So why do people do drug abuse? Especially youths.
You do drug abuse, maybe, let me just put it this way, because of peer pressure.
Okay.
Maybe what their friends, their family member are doing, so they'll feel like, okay, maybe I can do it and feel the way they
And
used to
become a
feel.
big boy or a big girl.
Let me just feel what they are feeling in these drugs.
Okay.
And they'll, okay.
Okay, you want to say something?
They also do it because of social media, maybe because of what they see online.
Okay.
So they do drugs because of that.
Okay, let me go to Madam. Madam, we've heard from the layman angle. So now let's hear from you. What is really drug and what is drug abuse?
Before I go to that, I really want to appreciate this opportunity to be on your program again. As we can see, there's need for us to do a bit more in creating awareness and sensitize the public about the issues surrounding drug and drug-related crime. Now, like the gentleman have said, we have different definitions by different category of people.
People about drug.
Now, like he has said, some people believe drug generally is meant to treat certain health challenge or ailment, why that would be under the medical definition as a chemical substance being prepared to take care of our health.
Okay.
But in our own view, or in a general definition as regards the UN, drug is any substance, be it natural, chemical, or gaseous, or whatsoever form, that when it has any interaction with human body, influences the way it perceives, it behaves, or it feels. Now, if you look at that definition, it's cut across both substances that are used for medication,
Yes.
substances that are used to get high or for recreational purposes, and substances that are actually banned. You know, any of these substances, when you are exposed to them, they work beyond how food work.
Okay.
Food, you eat it to feel
get
okay,
energy, to
to
get
quench
strength.
your anger or
Okay.
hunger,
Yeah.
and to feel all right. But anything other than water or food that when you use affects your mood, your perception, or your behavior is considered drug.
It's considered drug.
But there are differences between drug and hard drug.
Okay. Can we hear more about that drug and hard drug?
Yes. Now, when we want to go further to define different categories of drug, we'll be talking about illegal substances. These are hard drugs. These are substances that the UN Charter of 1989 prescribe as being illegal, which means whoever possesses it or use or distribute or handle it in any form is considered a criminal.
Okay.
That charter, which have been ratified by every member state that attended that convention, actually are signatory to the charter and they have made it a law in their own country that any of those substances so listed under the UN Charter falls under hard drug, which means if you are caught with it, using it, distributing it, or whatsoever means, you are considered a criminal. So they are hard drugs. Now we have other type of drug that are medications. Now these are chemical preparations or substances that are prepared for medical purposes to treat ailments. It could come in form of liquid. It can also come in form of gaseous substance, or whatsoever form, or it can come in any form. They are medications. All right, and some of them are controlled, while some can actually be gotten over the counter. We call them OTC substances, over the counter drugs, in our own society here. Now we also have some other substances that are under social substances. They are social drugs. These are drugs that when you take them, you ordinary person will see them as recreational items or substances, but to us we see them as social drugs because they still affect the way people behave. They affect the way people perceive things.
Like the musicians and the...
Yes, even ordinary person. I will give you an example. Alcohol, cola nut, snuff,
all those are
taba,
local things.
cigarette, shisha. Why? No law ban the use, distribution, or possession. The only clause to that is, well, they may tell you smokers are liable to die to caution the user. But if you are caught with it or you are seen with it, nobody look at you like a criminal because the law does not ban it. And you can even take it. The young man may even have a stick of cigarette if he does smoke in his pocket, and if he brings it out by accident, nobody runs away. But the hard drug, everybody will run because we know the law is against its use. So any substance that you use for recreational purpose other than food or drink that affect the way you behave, and you use it for recreation, you will see some men will say, I want to go and relax somewhere. When they go to relax, you know they are going to drink alcohol. It also falls under social drug. But excess, now all these substances, be it hard drug, medication, or social drug, can be they have potential to be abused, so to speak, or be used in a harmful way. So that is why we also have another issue under drug that talks about drug abuse.
Before we get to drug abuse, let me go back to Samuel. What can you give us some examples of hard drugs that you've seen people taking? She just talked about shisha and all that, though she said it's other social drugs. But some of those hard drugs that you have heard or seen people taking.
Okay, I've heard about India hemp. I've seen people taking India hemp. I've seen people taking tobacco.
Tobacco is cigarette, I guess.
It's social drug. It's not hard drug.
Marijuana, I've heard about marijuana, but I've not seen marijuana.
And there are some local ones that some guys do that. They will say ekogotapa because
they call it chemical
or something.
So there are something like
too.
that too, and they are harmful.
I've heard of people that snuff urine and all the smells and all that.
Yeah.
I want to hear from you because you're a youth, you should know all these things.
Yeah, no. I know about some. Let me say, for example, gum. I used to hear about that. People used to inhale gums, passive suck away. I've heard about that too. So gums suck away.
I would like to cut in there.
Okay, ma'am.
Because while we are trying to create awareness, we also don't want to recruit
people into
newbies.
Okay.
People don't have idea of all these things. We are careful
of pronounce
of calling out certain things that people abuse, because there are people who want to go into it but they don't want to go to the ones that are prohibited.
Okay.
So when we are giving examples, we want to be very careful, so
that
that we will not give idea.
While we are listening all this is that sometimes some parents might not even know that what these children are doing is a drug abuse.
That is why I thank you for bringing us up in your program, because we are creating, even no matter how little, some level of awareness about these issues. Schools are back on session.
Yes.
And a lot of youth may have gone into all sort of harmful habits over the long vacation or holiday, and they are coming back to school with all sort of behavior and vices. So, and parents who thought the way they have raised their own children and kept them at home is the way the other person must have raised their own, would be doing themselves some harm by not getting acquainted to things that happen. So while you release your children to go to school, it is important for you to be armed with information so that you can look out for signs and then be able to step up and step in and curb those habits if they rear their heads. Okay, so that is why it is so timely that you call us up.
Okay.
Now, talking about examples of drugs, I have given us different categories of drug and they have their examples. Even and sub examples, I would say. Okay. Like the hard drugs, drug generally, be it hard drugs or prohibited drugs or medicinal drugs, okay, or social drugs, they have categories depending on their effect on the central nervous system.
Okay.
Now, examples of that is include but not limited to these few ones time will permit me to mention. Okay. We have inhalants, we have stimulants, we have narcotics, we have amphetamines, we have designer drugs of all kinds, depressants of all kinds. So, and any of these three categories of drug can fall under any of this. I'll give you example. He mentioned something like gum. Gum is an ordinary item that we use for other household things, purposes. But people have gone to look at other effects it will have on the body when the body is exposed in an inappropriate way. And when they either chew it, it gets them high. Then we have solvent, which we use for ordinary things. It doesn't even fall under drug naturally, but because people are becoming creative in a wrong way, and they are getting exposed,
social media too,
young people experiment with those items to get high, so it falls under gaseous substance, okay, or inhalants. Okay. What about cocaine? People snort.
That one is what everybody knows as
people snort. It's hard drug, but people still use it somehow. So to get high, they use it, they abuse it, so to speak, or they use it in a harmful way. So we need to know the classification of drugs, types of drug, classification of drug, and their examples. So when you are talking about hard drug, it can be depressants. Heroin falls under depressants, cocaine under narcotics, all right, like that. Then we have the amphetamines also, that are psychoactive substances, like that, and they have their effects.
Okay, before you tell us the effect, let me hear from Samuel if you know some of the effects of drug. Do you know some of the effects?
Let me say, some of the effects I know is that majorly people, whenever they are exposed to drug, they normally misbehave. That is one thing I know, that things that normal people, that if you are in your normal sense that you can't do, that is what they do.
Or some people do it to get boldness, maybe like this musician to face crowd.
Yes, people do, yes, they use it for to get boldness, but some people even use it maybe in a sense that you want to go and fight someone that, okay, well, I know that if I'm on my normal sense that no, I can't carry bottle and break bottle on someone's head, but once you know that you are, even the person looking at you, you know that this person is not on his normal this thing, let me just run for my life. So I think so.
Ma, can you tell us more of the effects of a drug?
Drug generally, when harmfully used, have consequences and effects. When we talk about the effects, we will also have to be acquainted with the different classification, like I told you, and the effect of their use on the central nervous system.
Okay.
However, generally speaking, the effects or consequences of harmful drug use can be categorized into three:
Okay.
the physical, the psychological, and socio-economic effect. Now, when we use certain substances, for example, stimulants accelerate the messages that the body pass to the central nervous system. And that is why someone who wants to go on a marathon race, or someone who wants to stay up all night and not sleep because he feels he need to read, and he wants to, they call it jack, or they want to SWAT, okay? They instead of them to embark on systematic study, they will want to take substances that will make them stay wide awake. So the message the body has sent to the brain is stay awake against the natural process of the body. Those substances over time tend to affect whoever is using it, be it physically, psychologically. For example, if such substance abuse or harmfully used is injected through the use of needle, you may be exposed to transmittable diseases like HIV,
That's
like
when
hepatitis.
With somebody here. So.
Yes. So you physically become sick. Okay? And prolonged use can also lead to damage of any organ in the body.
Like the kidney. And
the kidney, the liver, the heart. Okay? And sometimes it can go on when that person has now become dependent on the substance after a prolonged use. The person may begin to behave erratically. The person may begin to skip school, or avoid going to work, or not taking care of himself. There you now realize there is a social effect on that person. An economic effect can later come in because he will lose his job or be expelled from school. You see, it's a shame. It can come one after the other, and it may even come all at once. And that is why it is good to nip the habit in the bud. It's a health challenge.
Okay.
Because when someone is exposed to harmful drug use, the brain is affected, and most often times the health is seriously impacted.
But why do people really go into such? Because I think
we have various reasons, but it also depends on the category
individual.
or the individual. For a young person, like he said, who is into sport, it may be to boost his performance. There are certain substances that boost hormone in the body. You see some young people, they want to look macho, they want to become bouncers, or they want to weight lift and carry what they naturally have not prepared their body to carry. Instead of them to go and work at it gradually and put in the time, they want it to build overnight. Someone who wants to be six-pack young man will not want to exercise, will not want to work hard, but would rather want to grow it overnight. It goes this week, next week is already looking like Hong Kong. Okay? There are some steroids they inject that boost those hormones, and they have side effects over time. Such a person may lose his fertility or potency as a man. As a woman, his mammary gland could develop abnormally. And before you know it starts developing macho features, beards, husky voice as if it's a man, walking in certain way, the muscles begin to look big, larger than normal, and before you know it, that person may even lose her fertility also. So all these things have their consequences, and for a man who felt the economy is bad, let me go into drugs, let me just while away my sorrow, and it takes to alcohol. Over time, alcohol has a very high mortality rate. Yes, especially when people go into raw ethanol, what we call ogogoro. Ogogoro has a high level of dependency or addiction, so to speak. And when you get addicted to it, over time you lose control. Over time you don't eat. All what you want is to feed that desire, and when you don't eat, you become very light on your feet, and before you know it, the organs begin to suffer, they become sickly, and if care is not taken, such a person may die. So we have the physical consequence, the psychological and socio-economic consequences of drug abuse.
Okay, Samuel, you've heard from what Madam has said so far. Do you think it's really ideal for you to continue on drug?
It's not ideal. I think drug abuse is something bad that youth should not even go into. It's a bad thing to go into. It's not even proper at all. You might end up even losing your life at the end of the way. You might end up being, even though if you don't lose your life, you can end up having nothing, because if you are addicted to a certain drugs, even though it comes to maybe your last change to use to it, you just know, let me go and get this drug, I need it.
Start selling your property to get
you start selling your property to buy it. So it's very, very bad to go into drugs.
What do you think parents should look out for? Because sometimes these youths, they have a way to hide, to do things, or they get influenced somehow. You think parents cannot follow their children everywhere?
Yes.
So how can parents really know what their children are doing?
What I will say about that is that you should just know the kind of friends your child is
Keeping.
You should know that, and you should be talking to him time to time, and you should look at his behavior, that no, this boy is not behaving like this before, this girl is not behaving like this before. From that, you should start maybe suspecting that maybe she's into one kind of drugs or one thing or the else. So with that, you should be able to know that no, something is going on with this child.
Do you think it's ideal for parents to still visit their children when they are in higher institution? Because I know most students don't like it. Their parent comes to higher institution, they feel, what is the problem now that you are following me up and down?
Yes, to me, it's not a problem for parents to go and visit. When I was in higher institution, my dad has come was without even telling me that, where are you? And thank God the day happens to be Saturday. I just feel like, okay, well, let me go to school today and just learn one or two things. And when he called me, I told him that I'm in school, so will you come, or because he knows my hostel, will you come, or I should just come home to come and see? Then he said that he's coming to my school. So I think
that's a good one. Ma, what can you really tell?
I'm not surprised it turned out the way it is. You see, when parents do what they ought to do, you always see it. By God's grace, not many parents know this, but most times, if you giving birth to a child is not enough, sending them to the best school may not be enough. You need to do more. It's sad that our society nowadays believe that all they need is to
Money.
look for the money, send the child to best school, give them materials that are way beyond their age, gadgets that are modern, or that are sophisticated, and that is enough. No, experience have taught us that parents who get involved have better results. That is not to say that some children don't also derail somehow, because I think this generation is faced with a lot of temptation, more than ever before. This is IT age, and like the young man said earlier, this generation is more exposed to things that are not even in their immediate environment. You'll be shocked what your child at less than 5 years knows that you in your time have not even thought of when you were in secondary school, say in your teenage. It is information age, and information is one of the major reasons why people go into drugs.
So
now
okay.
Now parents, like you said, need to be abreast, need to be involved, need to be informed.
Okay.
When you send, we are in a back to school area, and like I said earlier, the children you release back to school may not be coming back to you the same way if you are not careful. That's why you don't just take them to school and forget them and believe the school will take care. How many students will a teacher take care of? So you need to be involved. You need to bring out time. You need to dedicate part of your time to going to check up on your children, and communicate also more effective.
Now we don't really have much time, but
Yeah.
in a brief, what message you have for the public outside there?
Yeah, the message I have is that drug awareness, or harmful drug use awareness, is a thing that everybody should embrace, and we need all hands to be on deck to do this. Information is key, and then we need to be friends with our children.
Yeah.
We should not leave their care to the teachers alone. Parents, guidance, community generally should be involved, and the best way to do this is to cooperate with the agency in charge of this fight. National Drug Law Enforcement Agency is in your neighborhood, in your community. Reach out to us and let's see how we can collaborate to take care of this menace in our society. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming, and thank you viewers at home for being there. You've heard it from our guests so far. We believe that this message will do a lot to you. Until come your way again on the same program next week. Bye bye.